Should you pre-sell your membership? So pre-selling your membership essentially means that once you've made the decision that you're going to create a membership, maybe you have a vague idea of the audience you want to serve and what your membership might include, you actually go out there and you try to get people to pay you money for your membership before you've done any work to actually create the thing, to actually start the process of turning your idea into a reality. So this is pre-selling your membership. So we're going to dive into the pros and cons of pre-selling your membership in today's episode.
You're listening to the Membership Guys podcast, bringing you proven, practical tips and advice from the leading experts on growing a successful membership business each and every week. And now, here's your host, Mike Morrison.
All right, you are listening to episode 280 of the Membership Guys podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morrison, one half of the Membership Guys. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with me. I truly appreciate it. Today, we're talking all about pre-sale. Pre-selling your membership. What are the pros and what are the cons? Now, the pre-sale of something like a membership or an online course or any sort of product like this is quite commonly known as a seed launch. This is an idea that was popularized by Jeff Walker in his book Launch and as part of his product launch formula program that's been running for 10, 15 years or so now. I lose track. So this seed launch is basically the idea that you pre-sell your membership. You come up with the notion, you decide that you're going to create a membership to serve a particular audience. And before you do anything else, you go out to a select group of people and you say, hey, I've got this idea to address this problem, address this pain point within our market. This is what I'm thinking. If you're interested, pay me some money now. Basically, there's a lot more nuance to it. You're not necessarily going to be as direct as that, but that's essentially what it comes down to. You take the acorn of an idea, this nugget of an idea, and you go and find some people to give you money for it before you actually start the ball rolling on turning that idea into a reality. So seed launch is perhaps the most commonly used name you'll find for it on the online business space. Some people refer to it as a founder launch, a founding member launch, but ultimately it's a pre-sale. You are taking a paid pre-order for what will ultimately become your membership. And it's an attractive idea, right? There's definitely some big pros to it. So we're going to talk about the pros, but I'm also going to talk about the cons because there are definitely some cons. So first of all, the pros. One, and perhaps the main reason most people do it, you raise capital. So the whole idea of a seed launch, where the name seed launch comes from, you get seed money. You get money to get you started. Starting a membership costs money. Even if you're using WordPress, which is free, maybe you're using a free membership plugin. There's some great free membership plugins. Paid Memberships Pro, probably the best free membership plugin on the market. Even if you're using that, you're using a free theme. Maybe you're a member of Membership Academy and you're using Member Only, which is free to our Academy members. You're still going to need to pay for web hosting. You're still going to need to pay for your email marketing service. You're going to need to pay for your domain name. There is cost involved in starting a membership. And if you're in a position where you don't have that capital, you don't have the money to invest, then a little bit of seed money can go a long way. And again, we're even talking about starting up on a budget. Maybe your requirements mean that you can't start on a budget. You need to spend several hundred or even thousands of dollars getting a good design, a good theme for your membership, using a paid membership plugin, all that sort of stuff. So big pro of something like a seed launch, doing this pre-sale, is that you get to raise capital. The second pro is that it validates interest. I mean, if you can get people to put their hand in their pocket and pay you actual cash money for something that doesn't exist, that is barely an idea, then that tells you there's interest. There's demand, there is a need in the market, and therefore that's a good indicator that when you go back out to market with something tangible, the level of interest is going to be high. So again, that's a big pro. It's a good way to validate that a market exists, that you understand their problem, that you've got a good concept for the solution, that you can connect the dots between the two and compel people to put their hand in their pocket and pay for what you're creating. That confidence can really, really help you move forward. That's going to give you that kick up the butt. It's going to give you that extra motivation to move forward. And if that motivation wasn't enough to spur you on, the fact that doing this pre-sale and collecting money actually forces you to commit yourself to take action, that's going to make it more likely that you actually come through. Because if you made your idea public, even if just to a select group of people, and people have given you money for it, there's definitely extra impetus for you to follow up on this idea. You know, ideas are meaningless without action. If every person who had a great idea actually executed on it, the world would be a very different place. Truth is, the vast majority of ideas don't go any further than just thoughts in a brain or scribbles on a page. This kind of pre-sale, having money change hands, makes you a little more committed. It gives you that extra external reason to actually follow through and to put your idea into practice. Another benefit of going through this pre-sale process is it helps you to identify your superfans. If someone is willing to back you based on little more than a rough idea, then they're definitely a superfan. And they're probably the first people that you'll turn to for help in spreading the word, for sending referrals and so on when you're actually ready to launch properly. These guys obviously trust you. They obviously have an interest. They love what you do. They are your super fans. So being able to identify them early by their willingness to back you financially at that embryonic stage of your membership is going to come in useful down the road. And in addition to all these things, having this kind of seed launch helps you to ensure that you have some initial members who you can get into your community for when you open the doors. The worst fear of a lot of membership owners is they'll open the doors to their membership and there'll be crickets. Not a single person will join. You will know if you do this kind of pre-sale, at least you have this first clutch of members. It might just be a handful, but that can make the difference. You know, well, if worse comes to worse, at least I know I have some members, and that's going to make it a lot easier to build on. So there's definitely some pros to doing this kind of pre-sale, this seed launch, founder launch, whatever you want to call it. However, there are some definite cons. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this episode, and I wouldn't be serving you if I didn't give you the downsides. First and foremost, this kind of pre-sale, the way people typically do it, tends not to be compatible with recurring subscriptions, this recurring business model, where the idea is once someone signs up, they start the subscription billing agreement, and they pay you month after month indefinitely until one of you takes action, which typically means they decide that they don't want to pay you anymore. But there's no fixed end date. People will keep paying you for as long as they see value in doing so. Generally, with a seed launch, when you're doing this kind of pre-sale, you're collecting a one-off payment. You can't get people onto a recurring subscription and having them pay you monthly if you don't know when you're going to be able to return anything for them. So, you know, it could take you 3 months, it could take you 1 month, it could take you 12 months to get your membership ready. You're not going to be able to convince people to set up a billing arrangement to pay you every single month when they don't know when the return is going to come, right? They're more likely to turn around and say, yes, I'm definitely in. Once you have something tangible, that's when I'll sign up. It's a very different proposition when you're asking people to essentially pre-set up a recurring subscription. And so with a seed launch, with a founder launch, what have you, generally what you will be doing is saying, okay, here's my idea. If you are interested, it's very early stage, but if you are interested, we have an opportunity for a one-time payment. So that's lifetime membership for a one-time payment of X amount, which is a ridiculous discount. Once the membership is up and running, you will have lifetime membership. That's generally the only way of doing it. Any other alternative is just logistically too difficult. At best, you might be able to do a pre-sale based on, you know, a discounted one-off payment that will basically give someone their first year of your membership. But then when that year ends, you're relying on that person then taking action to set up a recurring subscription for the next year and the following years. And obviously, if that recurring subscription payment is significantly higher than what they paid you during the pre-sale, they're less likely to do it. So the type of transaction that fits with a pre-sale tends to be incompatible with recurring subscriptions. And as a result, usually what you are offering people during the pre-sale is a one-time lifetime membership payment. Anything other than that is going to be too difficult a sell. Now, that is a bit of a problem because lifetime memberships are problematic anyway. They really, really are, because first of all, whose lifetime? My lifetime? Your lifetime? Who knows, right? And also, someone could be paying you $100 for lifetime membership of something that initially at this really early stage, you're thinking, okay, we'll do a community, maybe a Q&A, maybe a tutorial here and there. But actually, by the time you fully flesh out this idea, you might have completely changed the nature of what you're offering. Maybe what they bought lifetime access to is actually quite a hands-on, done with you coaching membership. And if you could end up charging people $300 a month, but you give someone lifetime access for $100 because you need a little bit of money to get you started up when you had that acorn of an idea. That's the problem. You don't know what that acorn's going to turn into. If you haven't decided your content model, you're pre-selling before you've decided your content model, before you've decided your pricing model, you don't know what you're selling. And that's probably, it's less of a problem if you're selling a course where you can kind of just write it off because it doesn't cost you anything extra to just give people access to this course. However, with a membership, with that recurring aspect, the absence of having a recurring subscription for your pre-sale customers can definitely cause problems. So there's a lot of incompatibilities there to think about. You can wriggle around it. You might be able to figure something out, but just know, generally, you need to go with something really compelling if you're doing this kind of seed launch. And typically that's going to need to be one-off lifetime membership. And that is a problem. The second con is that if you don't get a great response from your pre-sale, it can be really demoralizing. People don't necessarily realize how big an ask it is to go to a group of people and say, I've got this idea. Do you want to just give me some money for it? I haven't got a plan necessarily. I don't know what the content will be. I've got a rough, vague idea. I haven't decided on the price. I don't really know when it'll launch. Right at the start, give me some money. That's a hard sell, right? And so it's not surprising if you do this kind of seed launch, this kind of pre-launch, and you just get no response, no takers. That can be enough to put you off. If you do get people taking you up, then yes, that's a massive validation of your interests. But the truth is, if you don't get a good response to a seed launch, that doesn't tell you anything. That isn't a sign that your membership is not going to be successful, that this isn't an idea worth pursuing, because the idea of pre-selling so early on is such a hard sell that it gives you no useful information as to the viability of your idea, unless lots of people give you money. But if you do this kind of seed launch, if you're relying on this to get some money to get you going, to give you an indication that you're onto something great, and you don't get a good response, that can be so demoralizing. I've seen people scrap great ideas for their membership because they tried to do this kind of founding launch and they just got no response. And they took that as a signal that their idea was wrong, that they were on the wrong track. So the truth is, you're going out with a really hard to sell proposition. You're relying on having people who will just give you money because they believe in you. And that really, really depends on you having a very particular type of dynamic with your audience and a very specific group of those super fans who will bend over backwards to do anything that you want them to do. So that potential for demoralization, for it to derail something that otherwise, if you hadn't bothered with the pre-sale, actually could have gone out and be very successful. Again, that's a big, big con. Being aware of this in advance, being prepared for, the reality that, okay, you can try doing a pre-sale, but if you don't get a great response, do not let that put you off, because it does not mean that your membership's a bad idea. If you are mentally equipped to deal with that, then that's fine. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't realize. So it's a definite con unless you prepare yourself for that in advance. Another definite con is that it creates pressure to follow through. It might push you into moving forward with an idea that 2 or 3 weeks into it, you realize, oh, hang on, I don't want to be doing this. Or it might also add some extra pressure for you to make things happen quicker than you should be, for you to rush, for you to compromise because you're worried that you've got these people who are banging down your door, chasing you for an update on what's going on with the membership that they paid you for. Now, chances are someone who has that willingness to pay you for a seed launch is probably got that kind of relationship with you where they're not going to be hassling you and harassing you. But there is scope for those kind of people. You know, some people might not have that true appreciation of what stage it is that they're buying in at. If you've gone and you've told people, we've got this amazing thing coming and it's not ready yet, we're going to start working on it, we're doing an initial pre-sale and we plan for it to be ready in 3 months. Come 2 months, if someone's really eager for it, if you really sold it to them, they might be sending you little emails. Hey, do we know when this is going to be ready? Hey, is this ready yet? Oh, you said it was 3 months. There's only a month left. We haven't had any updates. What's going on? All this stuff adds to the pressure. So again, it goes back to remembering you're selling the acorn of an idea. Once you flesh that idea out, you might realize that you need to pivot or you need to scrap it. You need to move on. Maybe this was an idea that you shouldn't have committed to. Maybe this is an idea that was better left on the notepad. And you can get around that by making sure that when you go out and you do this pre-sale, it comes with the caveat that you explain to people clearly. There's the caveat that if you don't follow through on your membership plans, those people will get their money back. So you can work around that pressure. You can mitigate the chance that you'll get people to pay you for something that you then very quickly decide you don't want to follow through on. However, even if you've done that, you've got that caveat and people understand it, you might have already spent that money. So again, if the idea of a seed launch is to put money in your pocket for you to then be able to invest in membership plugins, invest in tech, invest in tools, or maybe it was to put money in your pocket so you could divert your attention away from other revenue generating streams from billable hours so you could focus on your membership. So, you know, instead of spending 40 hours working on a client project where you would have expected to have earned $2,000 or $3,000 and that would have paid your bills for this month, instead you raised that money through your seed launch, used that to pay your bills so you could give your membership your full focus. You might not have the money. So if you've made this guarantee to people, okay, if I don't follow through, you get your money back. That relies on you, you know, putting that money off to one side and leaving it untouched, which goes against the whole point of doing a seed launch in the first place. And even if that's not the issue, even if you've got the money, you can give it back, you can honor that caveat. That's not going to do a lot for your reputation. You could potentially get a reputation for being flaky. And so next time, if you come out and you try to do a pre-launch for something else, those people are less likely to back you. You become the business version of the boy who cried wolf. You're the boy who cried, amazing membership idea, give me your money, even though I have nothing tangible to sell. So definite pros and cons to pre-selling your membership via a seed launch or a founder launch. Our preference is to sell something that's called an MVP, a minimum viable product. So this is an early version of what will become your final membership. So it's something tangible with just enough features to tick the main boxes of what your audience want and what your full membership will ultimately become. So this could be something totally standalone. It might not be kind of a bare bones version of your membership. It could be something like a paid webinar, a one-off paid webinar or a series of paid webinars where you charge the same price point as your monthly membership will be. So, you know, if you know you're going to charge $49 per month for a membership that will include a monthly live training session, then you can have an MVP that you use to test the market, to raise some funds, where you charge $49 for the ability to turn up to a paid one-off webinar or a series of 2 or 3 webinars. And again, if you're planning on doing workshops, live workshops in your membership, then paid webinars are a great MVP, as essentially you're selling the same kind of content, the same sort of format that your membership will provide, but you're doing it almost as a one-off sample. So you're selling something tangible. You've got something real to sell people for the money that they're paying, without being locked in to a path you ultimately might not want to go down, without being overcommitted, without undercharging, all that sort of stuff. So you can go that really straightforward route with an MVP, or you can get a little more complex and run what is essentially a pilot program. So rather than trying to sell this acorn of an idea when it's at its very earliest stage, you spend just that little bit of extra time fleshing the idea out, crystallizing some of the specifics, what type of content you plan to offer, how high touch it'll be. So will it be do it yourself, so self-learning, or will you be hands-on? Will you be facilitating some programs, doing some coaching, whether you'll have a community and so on. So all those kind of things, that just gives a clearer idea of what the actual product you're selling is. And then you can use that information, those details, to create an MVP version of that membership. And if you embrace something that we call the Lean Live Launch strategy, then you can get this pilot program version of your membership up and running pretty fast. The Lean Live Launch strategy essentially involves 2 key principles. First, keep the tech super simple. So don't worry about adding all the fancy bells and whistles that you might think that you need, because the truth is it actually doesn't take long at all to get the basic tech, the basic engine in place to run your membership. You can have it done within a day, and we've got resources in the Academy that help with that. And you can soft launch your membership before you've created your sales page, before you perfected your onboarding process, before you perfected cancellation and failed payment processes, your marketing strategy, your sales funnel, and so on. You can soft launch before all of that. As long as you have that core engine, the tech, the ability to take a payment, set up a subscription for someone, and for that subscription to unlock access to content. That's a real simple engine to create. If you've got that and an initial content plan, then you can pull the trigger on your pilot program. So that's the first principle of the Lean Live Launch strategy for running a pilot program. Keep the tech super simple. That's the lean part. The second part is embracing live content. So rather than locking yourself away for months creating all of these courses, workbooks, worksheets, tutorials, and all that sort of stuff in advance, you deliver your first wave of content totally live. So if you're planning a 6-module course, maybe initially you deliver it live via a webinar, 1 module per week, just for your pilot program members. Once you've done it live, you record that live session, so you have the recordings, which you can then edit and polish and turn into your course for when you do your big full public launch. So if you think about it, when you create a course, you're going to sit down at a computer or in front of a camera, deliver the material, take the recording, edit it up, polish it up, put it on your website, and then it's there. So the only difference is you're inviting your pilot program members to be in the audience as you record. Kills 2 birds with 1 stone. You get your content created, and you also get to deliver content, deliver value to those people on your pilot program without having to produce all of that material in advance. So again, that eliminates the content production process from being a barrier to you being able to get an MVP version of your membership up and running. And then if you throw in other live materials such as regular Q&A calls, maybe member hot seats or coaching calls and so on, then in terms of content, you can soft launch without a single scrap of content pre-created, just a schedule of upcoming live calls. So this sort of pilot program, MVP, enables you to raise capital. It enables you to get that initial intake of members, to get real validation of your idea, and so on and so on. So all of the pros of pre-selling without the major cons, because you have something tangible. You have something real. You've gone through the process of fleshing the idea out enough so that you know it's something that you're going to stick to. You're not going to be pressured into sticking with an idea that actually you want to scrap, or you're not going to have pre-sold one thing and then try and figure out how am I supposed to pivot away from this. So that's our alternative to doing this kind of pre-sell. just spend that little bit more time to make your idea real and then launch a pilot program of your membership. Do it as a soft launch. So again, just like with a pre-sale, you'll identify a segment of your audience that you'll approach to promote this MVP version of your membership to. And actually, not only are you going to get that extra capital or you're going to get that extra validation, you're also going to be getting such valuable feedback and data from those people who take part in your pilot program that will really help you to perfect your membership and put you in a much better position for your full launch when you take your all singing, all dancing, complete and final version of your membership to market. So if you've been thinking about doing a pre-sale, maybe you've seen people talking about how everyone should do some sort of seed launch, founder launch, or what have you, then hopefully this has given you both sides of the coin. There are definite pros. So this isn't me railing against the idea. Seed launch, it's tried, it's tested for online courses, for one-off products. There's definitely some wrinkles when it comes to memberships. You can navigate those, you can finesse those. However, you certainly might want to consider the alternative, which for us is much better. For us, we see people getting much better results taking that little bit of extra time. Doesn't need to be an eternity. Just get a few more steps down the road before you take something to market and you try and sell something. So you can make sure that what you're selling is closer to what your membership ultimately will be. It's tangible. You're going to get a better response and you're going to put yourself in a better position for when you're ready to launch your final membership. All right, that is it from me. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to reach out on social media. I always love to hear from our listeners. You can hit us up on Twitter at Membership Guys, on Instagram at Membership Guy, singular. Callie is not allowed on my Insta. Or if you are inside our free Facebook group, we always have a little discussion around the podcast episode. If you're not in the free Facebook group, come and join me, Callie, and 17,000 membership site owners. We're in there every day chatting up about memberships. You can search for Membership Mastermind on Facebook or type in talkmemberships.com into your browser. That'll redirect you to the group magically, and you can come and join us. It is our free group. Or, of course, the best place to hang out with us is in membershipacademy.com. That is it from me. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Hopefully you found this episode useful. It's given you a bit of food for thought and a bit of extra info about the viability of pre-selling your membership via a seed launch or a founder launch. I'll be back again next week with another installment of the Membership Guys podcast.